Good day and welcome. You are at the Startup Show with Roger Pierce and Lily Ma. I'm Roger Pierce, and I'll introduce my co-host Lily Ma in just a second. But this show is all about entrepreneurship. So it's for people who are thinking about starting a business or people who have recently started a business. If that's you, you're in the right place, because every week we take your questions submitted online and we provide answers based on our startup expertise and our coaching expertise to hopefully get you closer to where you want to be. So we're going to answer questions for the next 20 minutes or so from entrepreneurs from around the world. Again, my name is Roger Pierce. I'm a startup expert. I've had 13 small businesses. Sounds crazy, I know. And today I get to work with a lot of big brands and banks around the world to help them engage small business customers through small business content. I'm also the co-author of a startup book, and I've given hundreds of seminars and lectures and webinars, and workshops on different parts of starting up a small business. But enough about me. Let me introduce live from Mexico, my co-host, Lily Ma.
I know, live from Mexico. It is warm here, and I have a beautiful scenery. I think you could see it in the background, the reflection. It's just striking here. So I'm your co-host. I'm Lily, and what I do is I'm a coach, and I help hardworking people build an extraordinary life and business. And a lot of the questions that I do bring forward to Roger are questions from our YouTube channel, from Evan Carmichael, as well as some of the coaching clients that I come across, and they're mainly around entrepreneurship and how to get started. So, Roger, are you ready for the first question?
I am ready.
Ready. All right. The first question comes from Frankie. So Frankie is saying, I'm starting to get out there locally and offer my services to small construction/renovation companies. How to convey low risk and trust?
Okay, good question. Thank you, Frankie. And thank you, Lily, for bringing it to us. You know, I hate to say it, but poor reputation dogs most of the trades industry. And I don't want that to happen to you. So it's actually an opportunity for you to stand out by doing a few things, a few fairly simple things differently than other trades business owners, carpenters, plumbers, electricians, home renovation, construction companies. A lot of customers get fed up with some of these service providers because they're not doing the things I'm about to share with you. So here are some simple things you can do, Frankie. Number one, do what you say you'll do. Sounds simple, but show up on time, charge what you quoted, do the work as promised. I guarantee you that alone will separate you from a lot of these other competitors who don't do what they promised and charge way too much and make the customer wait or reschedule constantly. So do what you say you're going to do. That's the first one. Along that lines, deliver and under promise. So do more than what's required of you. Give a little bit extra. Maybe don't charge them for every little thing you do if there's an extra request made on behalf of the customer. You know, can you just put a little extra elbow grease into a job? Can you add some finishing touches that won't cost you money, but maybe a little bit more of your time? Can you make it easy for the customer to pay? Do something that's unexpected that will delight the customer. When you over deliver and under promise, the word will start to get around about how great your service is. I think it's also important too, Frankie, to be upfront with your pricing and any extra charges that you might have to charge. I know it's tricky going into a job. Customer always comes back at you with some additional requests, and so you end up looking like the bad guy. But I think to have clarity in your pricing and say, look, this is what I'm going to charge you for what we agreed. Here's what I'm going to have to charge you if you want to do this, this, or that. Clarity, transparency, full disclosure, that helps to build trust, and it'll help you develop that reputation as being a good quality trades owner. Also key, and probably one of the most important things I'm going to say to you, is get customer testimonials and get customer referrals. Two different things. Testimonials, those are quotes, nice things that customers say about you and your business that you can put on your website or in your marketing materials or on your social media channels. Those are important. I expect to see those things. I want to see what other people are going to say about you. But then also arrange for a couple of customer referrals. These are people who will actually field calls from potential new clients. So if I'm interested in hiring you, but I'm not quite convinced, I want to talk to somebody who has hired you, be prepared to provide me with 2 or 3 phone numbers. So it's a bit of work on behalf of those customers, but hopefully they're the types of people who are just thrilled with you because you over-delivered, that they're happy to sing your praises and happy to field a few calls on your behalf. The last thing I'll say too, Frankie, is regarding money. Can you come up with a deposit amount that covers your initial costs, but is something that's comfortable for the customer to pay, or it makes it easy for the customer to say yes and you can sign them up? I think there's a disconnect in the industry where customers are asked to pay upfront and then the trades owner disappears, doesn't come back for weeks, and then they're stuck. On the other hand, the trades owner's got a lot of upfront costs, a lot of risks too, that have to be covered by a sizable customer down payment. So can you come up with a compromise number, something that makes both parties feel comfortable so you can start the relationship on that sort of equal footing? Those are my tips for you, Frankie, but I know Lily is going to have some excellent input for you as well.
Those are excellent tips. I think you covered all bases. And the one that I would love to highlight is the over-delivering and under-promising. I think in the beginning of any startup, entrepreneurs, we want to over-promise. And it doesn't come from a place of dishonesty. It just comes from a place of enthusiasm. We're just so enthusiastic. We want to promise you the world. However, the reality is there's only so much you can do. I think it goes back to the last episode we spoke about taking on too much and then as a result, ruining your reputation a little bit. So really over delivering and be clear in what it is that you can do within the time period and find ways to add value to the person's life. Now, how does that look like? It's going above and beyond the particular job that you're doing, like Roger said. And the one thing I'm going to add to it is the human aspect of it. No, when people are talking, I'm always trying to see what are the things that they're interested in beyond the business that we're talking about. Is there something else? Maybe that person is interested in golf. They just came up in conversation, well, I'm going to go for a round of golf and I love golf. And then just showing that you care with like little follow-up articles. You might come across an article about golf. Send it over to them. It kind of shows that you're paying attention and you actually care about them as people. And that's what forms that's what forms even more trust than over delivering and doing everything else. I'm always about the side of caring about the person as a human being. And it's very unexpected. And it goes back to what Roger's talking about, like do little unexpected things to make them feel like you're really over delivering on your value. And all in all, that's how you're going to build a trust.
Great advice. Thanks, Lily.
You're welcome. Okay, so next question. We have Max. I'm going to pick this up. How do I make a product that I have a blueprint for, but the materials are very expensive? Companies like Apple, etc., use materials that I need. Shall I ring up their factories or try and visit? So it sounds like they want to build something and they're thinking that they should go visit the factories that companies like Apple uses. That's what I gather from Max.
Yeah. Sounds very intriguing, Max, like you're building the next iPhone or something that's going to go through the charts. So I don't have a whole lot of experience in manufacturing, but I've got some thoughts for you, Max. What you're talking about is outsourcing manufacturing, which is a very common strategy, especially for new manufacturers, especially for small manufacturers. Of course, most new businesses start out small. So there are 2 common models, Max, for outsourcing methodology. One is consignment manufacturing, and the other is turnkey manufacturing. So I'll talk briefly about both. Under the consignment model, which is also called partial outsourcing, you would be responsible to do a certain part of the manufacturing process. So for example, maybe you obtain materials and you sort and package them for production and deliver them to the contract manufacturer for assembly. So in other words, you do part of the work, maybe the things that are proprietary or maybe secret sauce kind of stuff, and the rest of it is outsourced to a consignment manufacturing factory. The other option, and frankly the more popular option, is turnkey manufacturing model. This is where you pretty much outsource the whole thing from start to finish. This is how a lot of companies do it. This is how a lot of companies get started. Because who has the money to ramp up a manufacturing facility? There are thousands of turnkey manufacturing companies in China in particular that will tool up to do your particular product run for a certain amount of time, and then they'll tool up the next week to do another product run. So they really don't make their own products, they just make other people's products. So under a turnkey manufacturing model, you're hiring a factory that is set up to perform all the manufacturing and maybe even do stuff like material acquisitions, like get the materials you need, do assembly, test your products, and even provide some aftermarket service and support to your customers. So imagine that, companies that can actually do all this stuff, build, ship, research, handle customer inquiries, maybe handle returns and repairs if necessary. To me, that's the kind of solution you want, providing you can find the right one to build your particular product. I don't know exactly what it is. So how do you go about finding these options, consignment or turnkey? As I said, your best bet is probably China. It seems to be where most people turn for this kind of service. The trick was going to be to find a manufacturer willing to take on a small run and for a new product. So I'm assuming you're not going to have the money to crank out 100,000 products. You maybe want to start with 1,000, maybe even less. It's going to be a bit of a hunt to find those particular types of operators who can provide a small run or initial run, but they're out there. I would go and speak with other business owners who have done this, who have outsourced manufacturing, especially turnkey manufacturing, and tap into their experience, tap into their contacts. To find those types of business owners, maybe talk with accountants, lawyers, bankers, the advisors to business owners to see if you can connect with someone. It's going to take a bit of digging on your part. But when you do that, you'll be able to find the business owners who have experience in this area and can connect you with companies perhaps in China or India or other parts of the world who can talk to you about taking you on. Bit of a process ahead of you here, Max, to be honest, but if you're on to the next great iPhone, it's going to be well worth your effort. Lily, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I do agree. It's a big undertaking to start out with, but like you were saying, if it's something that you feel is going to revolutionize the world and change the world, then it's worth it. I do love the fact that go out there and talk to people as much as possible, because whatever it is that's out there, someone else has done it and they have been doing it for many years. It's one of the things that I did when I first started out years ago, we're talking half a lifetime ago, when I wanted to go into fashion design. And I love fashion design, and I still do. I still really love fashion, but I wasn't sure where to start because it's a huge undertaking to start your own fashion line. It cost about $100,000 to do your own fashion line. And when I was 17 years old, I decided to go and do an internship with a fashion designer. And she was a lot more experienced than me. She started from ground up. And she wasn't doing high fashion. She was building hospital scrubs. But for me to understand the process, as I got to know that world better, and she did everything. She outsourced the work. I realized that it wasn't something I wanted to do because it was a huge undertaking. So I'm not discouraging anybody from doing what they really want to do, but going out there and talking to people who are a lot more experienced, and if you have a chance to intern under them, it would be very beneficial.
Great tips. Absolutely, you're right. And this is the way of the new economy, right? Companies hobble together suppliers and partners and inputs from different sources to become the product or service.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I have one last question here, Roger. When it comes from Peter. So Peter's asking, when is it the right time for a price hike?
When is it the right time for a price hike? Well, that's a great question. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Lily. There are several reasons to warrant a price hike. I'm wondering what's influencing you right now. Number one, your competition is charging more. So you've noticed that their prices are going up, Why is that? Have they discovered that the market will bear it? That the customers are willing to pay a little bit more? If that's the case, then you have good reason to raise your prices just as well. In business, you want to keep a close eye, the closest eye really, on what your competitors are charging, so you can maintain roughly the same. If you're competing on price, which I don't like to recommend for entrepreneurs, I think it's a slippery slope to try to compete on a downward spiral in terms of pricing. If you're competing on price, then you've got to really watch what the other folks are doing. If you're not competing on price, if you've got a far superior product quality-wise, then keep an eye on what the competitors are doing, but don't worry about them too much, because you are the premium product in the marketplace, and therefore you can command a higher price for your service or for your product. So it really depends on a number of things. Another reason why it might be time for a price hike is demand is increasing while supply is stagnant or even decreasing. So in other words, are there more customers out there willing to pay for what you're selling? If that's the case, and yes, it's time to raise your prices. You also might be experiencing higher input costs. So your suppliers or the people providing you services, if you're a service company, maybe those costs are going up and you simply need to charge more to recoup some of those input costs. A big one too, Peter, is you've decided you need to earn a better profit, or you have a specific financial goal to reach, like retirement or sending your kids to university or saving up for another house or a new house. Maybe you've taken a hard look at your numbers and you realize, you know what, I've got to charge more if I'm going to reach those financial goals, because I need the business to make more money. So that's a worthwhile objective as well. Or you might just have too many customers, or more customers than you can handle right now. Again, a case of demand being high, in which case, yeah, it's time to raise your prices. When you do raise your prices, Peter, be prepared for a slight dip in sales, because some customers will walk, but it should be okay. Don't panic if you lose a few customers, because it just means you've got fewer customers paying you more money, which should actually make your business way more profitable and perhaps more efficient. Lily, what are your thoughts on pricing?
My thoughts are that let the market dictate and when the price hike is supposed to be. So in my situation, when I first started my coaching practice, I did not charge as much as I charge today. And really, in the beginning, I was starting out and I wasn't providing as much value as I do today. So seeing, and that came from the last point that you made. It was the amount of clients that I was getting. The numbers are increasing. So as the numbers were increasing, I slowly inched my price a little bit higher and higher and higher. And today I'm getting to the point, I'm wondering if I should do another price hike, because I have a lot of clients. Now, there is a good point that you made, is that you will expect a bit of a dip in your client base and in sales when you do a price hike. And luckily, I didn't face too much resistance when it came to that. But I do have a follow-up question for you, Roger. What is the best way to communicate that, your price hike, with your existing customers? Or is it something that you grandfather certain customers and you only increase the price for new customers? How would you go about doing that?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
You've yes to both your points, both good strategies. Number one, grandfather in your customers. Nothing wrong with raising your prices, but if you want to keep your existing people happy, you might say, look, we are raising our prices, just so you know, here's our new rate card, but don't you worry, trusted customer, existing customer, we're going to keep the prices the same way for you, or maybe for the first year or for the next couple of years, whatever you want to do to make those customers happy. I think also it's like a bit of a bitter pill. You coat it with a little bit of honey to help it go down. So you say to your customers, we're raising prices, but you're going to get this, this, and this. Or we're raising prices because our input costs have gone up. Nothing wrong with being honest with your customers and said, look, up until now, we've been able to provide you with coffee at a certain price because that's reflective of what we paid for it in the marketplace. But now something's happened to our coffee bean supplier, the farmers are charging more. Give somebody a real honest explanation of why the costs have gone up, if that's the case. And that's why you're forced to charge a little bit more. I think you'll find most customers are pretty receptive if you're honest with them, or make the pill a little bit easier to swallow in some way.
I love that saying. Coat a little bit of honey on the pill. I like it. I think I'm going to use that from now on. It's a nice saying.
Feel free. It's not patented. It's not trademarked.
Okay.
All right. So just moving right along to today's startup tip, if we've got time, Lily.
Yes, I do. So my startup tip for today is work-life balance.
Oh, good.
Entrepreneurs, we are go-getters, we are hardworking people, and we want to do everything that we can do to make our business succeed. And burnout is a real thing. And I see it time and time after again in my clients working a lot of hours and not really taking care of themselves. So my tip today is to understand what work-life balance looks like for you. Be honest with yourself and really have clarity around it. Because the more clear you are, the more time you could dedicate towards that work-life balance. So I get a lot of people will say, well, I want a better work-life balance by spending more time with my family. Now, how does that look like? Really pinpoint that. Do you want to take a 6-week vacation a year with your family? And if that's the case, you have to schedule it in. Do you have a non-negotiable that you're going to be home at 5 p.m. every night? You're going to have dinner with your family. So the more clarity you have around it, the better it is for you to schedule it in, because entrepreneurs could change the world. We could do amazing things. But if we don't take care of ourselves and the things that are important, that work is never going to get done. So that's my tip for today.
Really good points. You remind me of an entrepreneur couple, husband and wife team I knew years ago, and they had a boat. Not a huge boat, but a big enough boat you could sleep on, a cruiser. And they love to cruise all around the Great Lakes in Canada every summer. And so they made it absolutely immovable that they were going to take 6 weeks off every summer. So for 6 weeks, they would cruise around in their boat, and they just made it clear to any clients or contracts they had, and they had quite a busy consulting business, that they were unavailable, and that any work they took on would have to wait until after they were back from their 6-week vacation. That nothing was going to interfere with that personal priority, because it was part of their goal to achieve work-life balance. And that was one of the things they relished the most. Why work so hard unless you're going to be good to yourself? So I remember that story, and I think you taught us all a good lesson, Lily, and thank you for reminding everybody that it's important to really zero in on what does work-life balance mean to us.
Love it. I love it. It's an important thing, and it's something that I'm trying to figure out for myself, and that's the reason why I brought it up, because I have a tendency of working a lot because I love my business, and it's in the startup stage right now, so it requires a lot of my work. It's like having a brand new baby. It just takes up a lot of your time. But it's an important reminder for me too, is to take some time away. Right now I'm in Mexico, so it's I'm still doing some of my work, but I'm still taking the moment to really enjoy my time and spend time with people who are important to me.
How amazing is that? What a perfect illustration. You're doing a broadcast live from Mexico. To me, that exemplifies work-life balance. Good for you.
Exactly. Well, thank you.
I just want you to come back, though. You can't stay there forever.
I'm coming back. I'm coming back. Don't worry. I love Toronto. I don't know. It would take a lot for me to leave Toronto and go somewhere else, to be honest. I love my city.
But here's the thing. You can go anywhere with your business. You can work from anywhere, in theory, right?
It's true. And I choose to stay in Toronto because that's how much I love it there.
Sure. You love Toronto. You like using Toronto as your base camp. But I think part of the goal for any entrepreneur is to be able to have that kind of flexibility and freedom.
Yeah.
To be able to travel the world, to broadcast live from Mexico. But we got to figure this stuff out. We got to know what tickles our funny bone, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. You have such fun sayings today. Tickle our funny bone.
Showing my age.
I like it. I like it.
Well, I guess that's it. Any other thoughts from you, Lily?
No, that's it. I think this is great. I'll be back in Toronto next week, so I'm really looking forward to that.
We'll let you get back to the beach.
All right.
Thank you so much, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you next week at the Startup Show.
Yes. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.